You know, there are people listening right now who know deep down that the life that they're living no longer fits who they're becoming. If this resonates, this conversation is for you.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious, that's greatness, be audacious, motivation, be audacious, innovation, be audacious, inspiration, be bold, motivation, be audacious.
So I had the job every lawyer wanted, or many wanted, which was in-house counsel, technology company, San Francisco.com days, 2000.
Sure.
And it was a great experience. I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm so happy I went through it, but I just realized being a lawyer wasn't for me. So, and we help unhappy attorneys to realize that there's a better way, and help hundreds, upwards of 1,000 attorneys to move into all types of jobs, sales, recruiting, operations, you name it. A lot of lawyers don't even make a ton of money when you do it by the hour, when you really think about it. But they're sitting there, so they're either stressed out of their mind and there's suicide, there's drugs, there's alcohol, or they're just having health issues, or they're just bored. So that's what we wanted to help, and really help these folks who need to fit somewhere else, and kind of bring that to the world.
So what do you do when the thing you worked years to build suddenly feels disconnected from your peace, your purpose, or even your identity? This podcast is all about helping you unlock your inner greatness and live your best audacious life. And today I'm joined by Casey Berman. He's a former attorney turned entrepreneur and founder of Leave Law Behind, where he helps unhappy lawyers transition into more meaningful and fulfilling careers. During this conversation, I kept thinking about how many people quietly stay stuck because they believe change has to look dramatic. Casey challenged that idea in a really powerful way. He kept coming back to the importance of small, courageous steps. And honestly, that hit home for me, because so much of our own journey started, or my own journey rather, started exactly that way. It was one small step in front of the other. There's a lot to this one, folks. You take so much from what Casey has to share. So without any further ado, let's hear my chat with Casey Berman. Enjoy. Hey, Casey, thanks for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here, my friend.
No, great to be here. Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Listen, for me, it's the opportunity to engage in dialogue. For me, is what always charges me, gets me excited. And the piece that I always love is the opportunity for us to kind of get in a conversation and perhaps say something that can help someone somewhere else get to a better place. And so, that's why we're doing this thing here. We're gonna chat like old friends that haven't seen each other in 20 years, and enjoy the conversation. And the cool part is that people have an opportunity to eavesdrop on what we're dialoguing about today, and they potentially can use that to get themselves to a better place, which is a thrilling thing to be a part of. And so excited to have you here on the Audacious Living Podcast. Your journey sort of from as an attorney to entrepreneurship, and now you're helping others live intentionally is thrilling. So I really want to acknowledge that as a starting point and say thank you for doing that. And maybe here's what we'll do. Maybe why don't I get you to introduce yourself to our audience, talk about the work that you do and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Yeah, no, great to catch up with you after 20 years. But what you said about conversations, I really like that whether I'm listening to something online, a podcast, or something on YouTube, or even just talking with someone, it's those little nuggets that you come away with. And the person who's saying it may not even know how meaningful it is to you, but you walk away with, wait a minute, I got to write that down. I got to make a note. So my name's Casey Berman, born and raised San Francisco, California. The family and I moved to Maui a few years ago, but back and forth. I kind of split time between California and Maui. And, I joke way back when I didn't like blood, so I didn't go to medical school. I went to law school, and I'm 51. So that was in the kind of mid 90s there. But really, I joke about it, but I didn't really think that critically at all. I just went. And a lot of people did also. You make your parents proud. It's what your ethnicity does. It's what your family does. It's what you do in a certain area, whatever the case may be. And I wasn't the only one. Went to law school, passed and got out, practiced for 5 years, but knew that it wasn't for me. And so I had the job every lawyer wanted, or many wanted, which was in-house counsel, technology company, San Francisco.com days, 2000.
Sure.
And it was a great experience. I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm so happy I went through it, but I just realized being a lawyer wasn't for me. So left after 5 years, went in the wilderness, started doing management consulting and so on. And I started writing online in blogs way back in the day, and Google picked up on it and started this coaching practice. And it's just kind of blown up. It's called Leave Law Behind. Folks can check us out at leavelawbehind.com. And we help unhappy attorneys to realize that there's a better way, and help hundreds, upwards of 1,000 attorneys to move into all types of jobs: sales, recruiting, operations, you name it. So it's a real passion project that's turned into a real business. So a lot of fun.
So couple of things. First and foremost, congratulations on making the leap. I mean, like how many stories you hear people who are in stuff that doesn't bring them joy, happiness, fulfillment, and they stay anyways, and don't have that courage, aren't audacious enough to take that step forward. And so
that's right.
Congratulations on doing so, because that is a big deal. But I want to explore the leave law behind, because you at least on the surface, you're not making the law profession sound overly attractive here, Casey. I mean,
so I do want to say, no, it's a good point. I do want to say that the world needs good lawyers. Right. We always need good lawyers. So if you are a good lawyer, you enjoy law, and you provide a great service, and make as much money as you need to, as you want, but the world needs lawyers. There's over 1 million lawyers, forget the exact number, but there's over 1 million lawyers in America now. There many more went to law school, like myself, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and so on. There's kind of a lot of lawyers now. So if lawyers leave the law, it's okay. The industry will survive, and people will be able to do it, and people will be able to be served. But the bigger thing is there is a lot to the legal industry that is not that cool. It is the anxiety, the stress. You've got soldiers and first responders and policemen, firefighters and police women and men. That's frontline. I mean, that's stressful. Yeah. If you go kind of professional services level, the first professional services, white collar information worker, however you want to think about it, who even approaches that level are pretty much lawyers, right? They're not emergency rooms. They're not policemen or anything like that, but the level, because of the fiduciary duty, the risks they take, what's on the line, and so on. And again, not all practice is a law. So some of them just have this burnout. My business partner at Leave Law Behind, adrenal issues. He's talked about it openly about it, Adam Ouellette, and just the issues he's dealt with. Now, if it's usually always very stressful. Now, if it's not that front line, then the work oftentimes is boring. It's just boring. We're just sort of glorified paper pushers in many ways. And I don't mean this in a bad way of knocking the law. It's really the truth. So it's either extremely frontline, laptop warrior, like going into battle, figuratively, or you're just bored out of your head. And so people, to your point, they're not living audacious, and they're going and they're making money. A lot of lawyers don't even make a ton of money when you do by the hour, when you really think about it. But they're sitting there. So they're either stressed out of their mind, and there's suicide, there's drugs, there's alcohol, or they're just having health issues, or they're just bored. So that's what we wanted to help, and really help these folks who need to fit somewhere else, and kind of bring that to the world.
Casey, can you give me and maybe just to help kind of give a picture here, is there a way of sort of quantifying, like you said, there's a lot of lawyers out there, but like how many are that unhappy that they got to leave, or they should leave, or have thoughts of leaving? Like, is there a way you can give a picture of an image of what that looks like?
In my mind, unofficial, it's 98%.
Wow.
Yeah, I think no. So I mean, it's tough. There are state bar. That's in mind, and I'm a little tongue in cheek there, but there have been a lot. I can find it later, but there have been a lot of studies by state bars and the National Bar Association, and it ranges from anywhere of, 75, 70+% have said that they're depressed or they don't like their job, and so on. Then you see other studies that are a little bit more pro the legal industry, where it's about, 30% might have an issue with with it and 40%, but it's not 2%. It's not 5%, right? There's not
Gotcha.
a huge high. So whether
There's
it's
significant numbers I'm hearing.
there's significant numbers of depression, anxiety, boredom, things along those lines. I'm not feeling satisfied with my work. So
Okay, so let's kind of talk about why people get into law. Like, because I would hazard to think, and if I'm crazy talk, that you please
Sure.
stop me, and I'll submit to your wisdom here. But I would like to think that people, if they fully understood what it was, they wouldn't get into it.
wouldn't get into it.
So does that mean that people don't know why they're getting into law? They just think, oh, I'll do law because my father did it, or it's a noble profession, or I should do a career that's like, I don't know, like why? I guess the question is, why are people doing it then? Really doing it?
It's a fantastic question. And the answer straight up is they don't know what they're getting into. Now, you would think nowadays, but I still have kids come to me, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, even 26-year-olds, so kids. But, people saying, should I go? And I now at my age, I say, don't, and I'm joking. But to this day, they watched, Perry Mason in their grandparents' days, Matlock, LA Law in the 80s, and then CSI and everything. There's always a lawyer show that's on.
Sure.
Right? Tom Cruise, A Few Good Men and all that. And so whatever it is. And so even to this day and age, with everything that's going on in media and all the different platforms to get the truth or ideas out there, there are still many people who say it's a respectable profession, which it is. And I'm going to go. And that's great. It's just, I tell them, go shadow an attorney.
But it's not the full story. It's not the full story though. Right.
So they're still not getting it. And I know when in the 80s and 90s, you just, like I said, you just go. I'm going to go and fill out the form and fill out the application, hopefully get into a good school. And my friend's going there and that's it.
And I get a chance to stand up and say, I object, Your Honor. And that sounds cool. And all right. That's
And most don't go, most lawyers are not in the law in the courtroom. Most of them are not wearing the fancy suits or driving the Maseratis or parking in front of the building. It's a grind like any other profession. And so I think a lot of people now, they have a lot of student debt and they wanted to be of service. And then at the end of the day, it's very stressful, like I was saying. And it can be very boring. There, estates and wills and estates needed, extremely important. But we've helped a number of estate attorneys leave who just said, if I did another will and trust, my eyes were going to bug out. No offense to estate attorneys,
I get it.
For some people, it just wasn't a fit.
Okay.
And it just wasn't a fit for me either.
I want to go back. We're not done with this topic, but I do want to go back to your personal decision. And when you got to that point where I'm not happy, I'm unsatisfied, I'm bored as hell, I got to get out of here. When you had all of those thoughts, the leap still is the leap. Right. No matter how much justification there is that we got to take that jump is still a big jump we got to take.
Yeah.
And with that comes with fear and uncertainty. What you're talking about is stepping away from something that you invested time, energy, money into something uncertain. You have no idea what you're getting into, and you have no idea what to expect. Talk about what that was like.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And I was being audacious. I didn't realize that at the time. And so I'll tell two quick stories. One was I did software licensing. So we did a lot of negotiating agreements and we sold our software. And I'll never forget that we closed a big deal. But New Year's Eve, the end of the quarter, I was always there till midnight with these salespeople there. We're trying to get these deals done. And I enjoyed it. It was a really great experience. But again, tired out. And I'll never forget our general manager of our office. He was doing sales. He made on one of the sales I helped him close, he made a 6-figure commission, big commission. And he was a sweet guy. Back in the day, he bought me an iPod from all of my help. It had the 3 dials, the white one, like version 1 or 2. And back then you could engrave on the back, and he engraved, thank you, Kate, and I'm looking at it, and this was very nice of him, but he got 6-figure commission. I got a $60, well, it was more than that, $60 iPod, right? And I remember thinking, not mad at him, but just, whoa, there are a lot of ways to make money. So that opened my eyes. The second one is fast forward maybe another year, and our parent office was in the UK. So we had this get together, corporate, whatever it's called, where you all come together. And there was sales, engineering, everyone's kind of getting in the groups. And I had, my name was, Casey, in-house counsel. And it said I was in the administrative group. And no knock on admin or administrative, but that just didn't jive with me. It just wasn't. I want to be with the customers. I want to be creating things. And so those are two experiences where there was really something speaking to me. And luckily for me, I listened to it.
And again, going back to why I congratulated you off the top, because not everyone does. Okay, so let's sort of talk about misconceptions that people have when it comes to pivoting, careers or even their life paths, right? Like they're out there, and sometimes those misconceptions are enough for people not to make that leap and make that jump.
Right. Now, another great question. And so one of the biggest misconceptions I see with lawyers who are very risk averse, granted, but really with everybody, because most people are risk averse, is that, well, if I take a step, first of all, they think it's a giant leap and they're going to burn a bridge on day one. We believe in baby steps, just taking small baby steps. You're not going to tell anybody. It's confidential. We're not going to let your boss know. You're not doing anything. You're not leaving your job yet. Don't worry about it. You're literally going to go do an informational interview with someone, or you're going to research jobs, or maybe join a coaching program. So the first misconception that people have is that there's this huge step they need to take. It's not. You take a baby step and you build momentum. The second one is this idea that, and this is coming to me recently, is that what am I getting myself involved in? Could I lose control of this process? What is this coach going to do? Who is he going to talk to? If I do an informational interview, is word going to get out? And so this feeling something will snowball, they'll lose control, and they're not going to be able to control this life change process. So there's many, but those are kind of two really big misconceptions that scare people, so they don't do anything.
It scared me. I get it.
Yeah. Oh, I get it.
I mean, yeah. I get it. But you probably could relate. I'm sure you had some of that, no?
It's 100%. But, I heard a line years ago, Snapple. I don't know if people still drink that, but they used to have a little saying in the cap.
Yeah.
This is, before when I was still drinking a lot of sugar back then. And it said, I think it was an Anais Nin quote, which said, your life expands or contracts in relation to the amount of courage you have. And I think of that with being audacious, right? Like you could say it expands or contracts in relation to how audacious you are, I think is another way you could paraphrase. And so to someone who is afraid, I say, that's good. That fear is a signal. It's a signal that you can push it. It's a signal. It's a sign. And it's okay, but your life is going to contract in relation to how audacious you are. So you make the choice.
In the time, did you think of it as audacious? Your jump, your leap?
I did, yes, because everyone around said I was so stupid. And it also, after that story about going to London and the admin, it took me another 7, 8, 9 months to really build up the courage. A lot of it was procrastination. A lot of it was not being audacious, but there was a lot of preparation in there. I did meet with people over time and prep things up. And also I was just nervous about having, the talk with my CEO who didn't want me to leave the law and wanted me to keep doing what I was doing. So it was a mix, but I did know this was kind of a big deal, particularly people around me saying, what are you doing? You could be on the path to become in-house counsel in Silicon Valley. And it just wasn't what I wanted.
Your story reminds me, a gentleman I used to work with the federal government here in Canada years ago. And it was a gentleman who I work with. His name is Kevin. If you're out there listening, Kevin, shout out to you. But Kevin was he was an avid golfer, loved golfing. And he'd worked in finance for many, many years. And he started working with a friend on their golf course. And when on their golf course, he wasn't the owner of the golf course. He wasn't running the finance of the golf course. He literally was helping tend the grounds and keep the grounds, and right. That's what he was doing. And he decided one day to quit his job to work full time on the golf course. Follow his love. He's one of those guys in the office. He had a putter in the office and went on breaks. Like that was him. Golfing was his thing.
I love it.
And I remember the sort of goodbye lunch or going away lunch, and there were people there that had no idea. Like they were looking at him so quizzical, like, sorry, what are you doing? Like, huh? Like you're doing what? Like they just couldn't understand.
Couldn't get it.
I understood because he was following his passion. He was leading with his passion, and he has no idea. And sorry, I should have told you.
Yeah.
I've got this light thing. I thought I was being smart and innovative by installing this motion light, and I can't get the stupid thing to stay on. And so ignore that. I'm gonna have to edit this all out. But that's
no worries, no worries.
He was following his passion, and no one like people, like I said, people looked at him quizzically and go, "What are you doing? What are you?" I understood what he was doing because he was that thing that was drawing him, that thing that he loved, that thing that he wanted to be around as much as possible. It was calling him, and he followed that. And I give him all the credit in the world for stepping forth and forgetting what may happen, what you don't know about the uncertainties, and living with this place of happiness and satisfaction, fulfillment. And so, when I hear that here your story sort of brings me back to that. And it also brings back again to those people who couldn't understand his journey and couldn't understand, because you are going to be alone in this. Like, you probably, maybe you did. Did you experience that where people were like, what the heck you doing? And because that's kind of what's happened to him. And I remember looking around going, but wait a second, this is what he wants to do. Why wouldn't he do what he wants to do? Right.
And so for me, if you have that passion, if you're able to identify it, locate it, bubbles up for you, whatever it is, fantastic. Unfortunately, a lot of people, myself included, didn't really know what our passion was. And so, I like the San Francisco Giants and 49ers and Warriors. I'm supposed to say I'm passionate about my kids and everything, but I didn't, and I do, I love my kids, but I didn't, I didn't really have that passion. I like to run, I play sport, but so what we advise at Leave Law Behind is for anyone who's listening, who's like, yeah, all right, great, but I don't really know what my passion is. That's fine. Focus on your skills and strengths, what we call your unique genius, because that's how you add value. So if you're somewhere and, in your friend's situation, he may have loved being out there and had that passion, but he also might have had just a great pulse on the grass and to grow and the water and hydrology and the sun and photosynthesis. Like he might, and what he didn't know, he loved to learn, right? There was skills that he had with it, right? And he understood the wind and how to develop the course and whatever the case may be. I'm making stuff up, but I assume there's some real skills and strengths when it comes to course design and so on. And so the same thing is for someone who's sitting there in an office job and is listening to this saying, I don't know what my passion is. I like NFL football and that's it. Like, what am I going to do? Go play football? No, but you do have skills and strengths. There are things you're good at. You put out fires. You're the leader in the room. You're a big visionary, or you're behind the scenes, or you're kind of quote unquote air traffic controller at your office, whatever it is, those are in demand. So really identify your skills and strengths, then go find jobs that call for those skills and strengths in an organization you like that's different than your job. That is how I have found that many people can really find that career satisfaction. And then what happens is when they lead with their skills and strengths, oftentimes the passion starts to emerge later on and they go, oh my God, I love this. I love it. So that's another way to kind of back into your passion if it's not as obvious as
right. Yeah. So if it's not smack dabbing you in the face, right, then it's like, okay, it's that exploration of yourself, I will call that, and you call it a unique genius, right? It's figuring out what it is, and but here's the thing, which is just so funny. Like if you don't know what you are or what you like or what you're into or what motivates you, right? The only real way of finding out is to be audacious enough to try things.
That's right. Yeah.
If you're not willing to try things, you won't know what will stick. But but even there in that lies the audacity, right? So I
baby step. You're
is.
Being audacious when you take a baby step. Go meet with someone. Go. Now, if anyone's listening to that point, we've got I'll get a pen and paper or write on your notepad or on your phone. There's 3 questions that we ask at Leave Law Behind to help people kind of understand what they're good at. And this is something you can answer yourself. It's also something that you can email to friends and just gather people who know you work out. The first one is, what are you good at? Compliment me. What am I good at? Just get it. Am I good at building IKEA tables? Am I the one who plans it? Whatever. Get the whole thing out. The second one is, what advice do you come to me for? Besides legal advice if you're a lawyer, but what advice do you come to me for? Am I the one that, relationship advice, just throw it out at me, brain dump it. And then the third one is, what have I done or what do I do for free? Do I volunteer at the Humane Society? Do I do this, do that, whatever it is. You gather all of these from people. And some of them are going to be, yeah, I do the IKEA tables. What does that mean? I should become a TaskRabbit? No. But think about the skills it takes, like the patience and, what are the skills and strengths you exhibit there, right? And then what you do is you gather all of these skills and strengths, a bunch of bullet points. At Leave It All Behind, we have a way to organize it and bucket it and do kind of a scouting report for you. But for everyone listening, gather all those skills and strengths. That is one big audacious step right there. Gather it all. Reach out to people confidentially if you need to. It's a little touchy feeling. If someone doesn't want to do it, hey, all right, don't do it. But the ones who do, they'll be honored. They'll say, I am so happy that you're asking me to do this. I'm so happy to be part of it. You get that information, and then you literally find jobs that are calling for your skills and strengths. It will blow your mind when you are reading a job description or talking with someone, and they're like, well, we need someone. There are words in job descriptions like liaise with cross-functional departments. All that means is you talk with different types of people and you have EQ. So if that's you, you can liaise with cross-functional departments and do really good at it. So do really well at it. So I wanted to throw that in there. Those are 3 questions that you can do right now to be audacious and take that baby step.
It's funny. I oftentimes say, and it's funny. I've sort of seen a shift in my thinking along this, because once upon a time I used to really be the believer of be your own person. Don't let other people's point of view influence who you are. And that, right? But as time goes on, I recognize that you want to hear the viewpoint of others about you, because they have a perspective of you that you can't see.
That's right.
Right. And if someone, and where I would say, if someone says to you, hey, you'd be really good at this, pay attention to that. Yeah. Because of what they can see. I remember once I was at a Home Depot renting a shop vac or whatever, and I just got in conversation with the cashier. And and I've been doing this podcast for the last 5 years, and my first podcast was back in like 2007. So I've been doing this for a while, and I got in the conversation with the cashier about something random. And as I was leaving, she said to me, you know what? You should get into podcasting. And I said, maybe I'll think about it. Right. So it's people have that perspective. And I think there's a way where you can hear what they're saying and listen, but not be controlled or guided by it. You get what I'm
totally
saying? Right.
Totally. And so what in that situation, for people listening, if someone says you should be, say thank you, and then say, look, I am fishing for compliments. Instead of the noun, you should be this, go a double click and say, what about me? What are my skills and strengths? What about me is making you say I should be X? And they'll say, in your case, right? Audley, you got a great energy. You speak really well. I feel comfortable with you. Like that would be, I would think, the skills and strengths the woman at Home Depot would have said about you. So get the skills and strengths, that scouting report, and really flesh out. Because people will say, you should be a lawyer. You should be well, tell me why. Why should I do that? And in some cases, they're doing it because of their own fear. Well, just go be secure. I just want you. Now, but if they say, well, no, you really should be a project manager. Well, why? Well, God, Casey, you can manage a million things at once. You've got great EQ. You geek out on tech, and you're sitting there saying, oh, okay. Because that's how you add value. When you add value, you're of service. When you're of service, you get paid for it, this thing called money, and you get paid a lot. And then also that's where you've got that alignment and that career satisfaction. So, so your story there made me think, double click a little bit more to find out what the skills and strengths are.
That's right. Yeah. And I've heard coaches say you have to ask why 5 times to get to the root of the answer, right? Like keep asking why. And so that's kind of what a good tactic. Tell me about this whole idea of starting before you're ready. Because I got to tell you something, if I'm about to jump into something, I want to be ready. What do you mean? Start before I'm ready?
Yeah. So makes people feel very uncomfortable. For a long time, what I thought was, let me get my plan together. Let me get confident. Let me prepare.
Yeah.
And I do want you to prepare, because one of the best ways to not be stressful is to be prepared. Going into a meeting, when you're really prepared, you're not stressed, or you're less stressed. But in this situation, to your point earlier about the unknown, you don't know what's going to happen here. That's the inherentness of the unknown. You're creating something new. The universe does. If you believe in God, God does. Whatever the matrix. I mean, there is something, another energy that kind of knows what's going on. But with our kind of feeble minds and our linear track thinking, we don't. So the idea is to prepare and to get ready, but to not feel like you need 100% confidence before you act. It's actually the other way around. You act, again, a baby step. Just you have enough confidence to go do an informational interview. I'm not asking you to go out and to turn in and go do a presentation on day one or do a workshop. Just go do have a little bit of confidence to make a little step. But that's where, so it's really acting then sort of begets the confidence as opposed to the other way around. Because if you're waiting for 100% or 1,000% confidence, good luck. It usually doesn't work that way.
Well, and there's a part about this, although I jokingly asked the question, is I wholeheartedly believe with that approach, like it's, if you're always going to wait until you're totally ready, you may never, ever be ready, because we're never totally ready for everything. And like, you don't know what to expect. And, there's a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. that talks about, taking that first step and know you can't see the entire staircase. Like you step anyways. And if you play this through, the question why not, or even like just try. I think that word try is a beautiful word, because it's only 3 letters, but it invokes so much from a potential and standpoint. But if you play it out, this is what happens. So this thing that you're supposed to do, you're not sure, you tried it, and guess what? It didn't work out. Okay. Now you've learned. Well, that's actually funny. There's only 1 or 2 options. Either it works or it doesn't work. If it worked, great. You're on your way off to the races. Fantastic. If it doesn't work, you now know what not to do for it not to work in the future. You've learned. You walked away. If you walk away from a mistake and you haven't picked up the lesson, that's where you made the mistake.
That's right.
And so,
we're talking about baby steps here. So if it doesn't work, it's not that big of a deal. Right. You're not burning bridges. And for me, one of my favorite Martin Luther.
But see, baby steps is like feel like taking a safe to me. Like if you're gonna go, and then some people believe that if you're gonna go all the way, like just go, right? And I'm not saying to sell the house and throw everything out the window, and that's what you're saying, not burn the bridge down. But it just sort of feels like if you're not gonna go now, then when, right? Like
right. And a baby step. Listen, every 1,000-mile journey has a first step. So if someone here is saying, Casey, take your baby steps and shove it, I want something more accelerated. Okay, then take a medium step.
Cool.
But good for you, do it. And so, but in real life, and we're talking about career transition, it's about go and do an informational interview, go do research, go meet with a coach. There are a lot of things that you can do that doesn't necessarily lock you in.
Right.
For me, the Martin Luther King quote that I love, and I don't know if I'm saying this clearly, but he said, the character of a person is shown not in times of comfort and convenience, but in times of conflict and controversy. And when I heard that quote years ago, it rocked my world. Just talk about a nugget in a conversation. And I've always really been inspired by that. And so I would kind of turn that to everybody and say, what is your character right now? In comfort and convenience, where you kind of stick with the status quo and just kind of continue with a job that you may not like? Or are you, let's inject a little conflict into your life. Conflict being, I want to be audacious. I don't know how to be, though. I want to be courageous, but there's this first step I need to take, right? And that is really, as MLK pointed out, that's really that where you grow that character of a person. Another exercise I like to do is your future self. Have a conversation with yourself at 50. I'm 51. If you're 25, have it with yourself at 55 or 65, 75, and close your eyes. Have that conversation. Is your future self saying, damn, we missed it? Like, damn, I wish we had done something back at 25. Or are they saying, wow, I know you took some lumps at 25, 35, 45, but look at me now. Look at the life I'm living, and it's it can be powerful. Get your chicken skin when you think about that. So
it's funny. I've had that exercise and envisioning that conversation with my future self, and I can see my future self and older self, younger self laughing at each other. Like, imagine now, oh wow, that was funny. Remember that? Like that's literally what it's just. We're both laughing. Don't say nothing. Just laughing because
that's good.
You look at all the steps and everything.
Yeah.
No, I think to me. So real quick, I fell into this podcasting space back in 2007. And everything was as a result of, let's just try this and see. And so I was big into sports. So I started working at this, I was an intern at a sports station here in Toronto called The Score. And I thought, hey, I'll be on television. I'll be a sports anchor or whatever. Well, I was an intern slugging around VHS tapes in the archives department, and that's what I did. And I'm like, okay. And that left, and that didn't happen. I'm like, oh, I guess I wasted my time there. But I didn't, because while I was there, I developed a relationship with a reporter. This guy's named Dave. And Dave and I became friends. 4 or 5 years after that, Dave and I said, hey, let's start a podcast. There's a new thing called podcast. Let's start that. Well, that wouldn't have happened unless I made the decision to go to this, to be at The Score to begin with. Exactly. And although I went there for one thing, I got something that was more valuable, because I got a relationship that helped me start this podcast. That led to another podcast. That led to another podcast that allowed me to be working with a basketball league. And from that basketball league, I got a position in the communications role. And from that communications position, I became the commissioner of the league. Like I can see it linear all the way through. That happened with that first audacious choice, and followed by a series of others ones as well. And so you don't know where things are going to go. But I think the idea of being responsive and pivoting and accepting what takes place and recognizing opportunities, all of those things are key to really being successful. And I think that's why my future self would laugh at me, right? Because
because well, it makes sense now. It makes sense now looking at all those dots that connected, but.
They say there's expression that says, living life forward is an art. When you look back, it's a science. And you really think about it, as you're moving forward, you're going, okay, I'm gonna go here, right? And then you look back, you can see, oh, well, if I didn't go here, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go here. I mean, Casey, you and I are only talking today because you made a series of choices.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
And Absolutely. At the same time, while you were making your choices, I was making mine. And now just imagine there's going to be a lawyer that's going to hear this, or a friend of a lawyer that's going to hear this. Oh my gosh, Casey can help me get out of this funk that I'm at and change your life. That wouldn't have happened if we individually did not make the choices that we made.
That's it. I love it. No, it's fantastic. And it goes to that point that you are a perfect example of acting and then growing confidence as you kept acting and doing that. Now, prepare, make sure your bills are paid. You don't want to trade the anxiety for a bad job you don't like, for the anxiety of not being able to pay your bills. Right. I mean, there's preparation and so on. But look at what you did, right? You got the intern. You didn't know where it was going to take you, but you still did it. And then you moved on to the next role. And then the big thing there is the relationships. That really is. I mean, we're people. I know we're introverted, extroverted, but so much comes down to relationships. And so literally just, what they say? Life's about 90% showing up, getting out there, meeting people, have people trust you, be in the trenches with them. And all of a sudden, just like with you, they say, you know what? Why don't we do this thing together? And there's the next dot and the next dot.
We talked a lot. I mean, I joked off the top that we're not paying a great impression of the legal profession and all that stuff. And I really was joking, by the way. So I might, if there's a lawyer out there that's hearing me, please. But I mean, what I will say though is the having a law background, it really can be a very, very strong foundation, a leap into other things. The commissioner of MBA has got a law degree.
Right. They say there's something that goes back years. They say you can do anything with a law degree. So it's true and it's not true. And so that's something that people have said. They go into law school. Well, I can do anything with it. And then they end up practicing for 30 years and they don't like it. But the good news is you have as a lawyer, unhappy lawyer, and also other professionals listening to this, you have what we call transferable skills. And so to your point, Audley, where you said, that internship wasn't wasted. That was step one on a many-step journey. The same thing is, we talk about when lawyers leave the law for a non-law job, it's career stage V2.0. It's just the next stage. And everything you do as a lawyer, putting out fires, being the adult in the room, connecting the dots, being the visionary, telling the stories, on and on and on. Lawyers do so much, as again, so many other professionals do, so many other people do. Those are all in demand. So when you do the unique genius, you understand your skills and strengths. Those are not just lawyer skills. Those are skills that are completely in demand in many other jobs.
Love it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. In your information that you shared, you talked about your role as a father and raising neurodiverse children, and how that's helped with resiliency. I wonder if you could expand on that a bit more. I'd love to I guess learn more about that for me.
Yeah, my kids are teens, 18 and 15, and neurodiverse. So they, very functional, and living life, but they see the world in a different way. There's that movie Sixth Sense from many years ago, and I see dead people, right? And I would always look at my kids. They just saw things differently. They just felt things differently. The sensitivities, and in some ways, it didn't work out well socially. There were issues and connecting with people, and not being able to sit at a desk. We moved into homeschool in 2013, even before COVID, because they just, my daughter, I remember her saying about one teacher, I'm smarter than my teacher. And you're like, whoa, what second grader says that, right? And so there was a lot of issues that we had to
Sure.
deal with, different kids, and a lot of schools, they can handle the middle of the road kid, the real super smart kid, or the remediary kid. They just can't deal with it. So we had to kind of create our own curriculum and program. And but then there's a lot of great. I mean, they love to travel, and very sharp. My daughter started college and at while in high school at 16. My son is passionate about so many interesting things, and but it's a lot of work, and it's a whole new world, and this matrix of a world that we're in. In some ways, it's just not accepting of people like that. And then so you have to kind of craft your own path and talk about the unknown. My wife has, I mean, we've done it together, but my wife has just been just such a saint and angel, and
Mm.
homeschool curriculum guide, and just air traffic controller and everything. She's just been absolutely fantastic. And when then you start going down things like the gut, the leaky gut, and how nutrition impacts the brain,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
sugar and carbohydrates, and on and on and on. You're seeing how things are connected. And I'll end by saying, there's a lot of belief systems we have as people. We were talking about jobs and careers and so on. But when you have children like this, it pushes you to think in a different way. So it's made me a better person. I'm happy
Mm.
about that, I think. But it's been, we've taken our lumps and had to really shift our thinking. So
I can relate as a father of a daughter on the autism spectrum.
yeah,
I had to do things differently as well, and see the world differently, and understand it, and sort of look at it from her lens, and because she's nonverbal, be her advocate. But I can't
yeah,
be her advocate until I have a better understanding of what it is that she sees and how she views the world. And so
right,
I think at the end of it, it's made definitely has made me a better father. But where I see the impact is with her younger brother. There's a 2 year difference between the two of them, and he sort of stepped in and kind of been her eyes and ears a little bit. But to watch how he's evolved,
yeah,
when you sort of look at with him and his peers, his level of maturity, his
oh,
empathy, and his
I love it.
understanding, he's just at a totally different level. I mean, it's when I was that age, I wasn't where he's at now, and I
Yeah,
think and I think a large part of that is the influence of his sister, and
absolutely.
understanding that world. And so yeah, so as you talked about that, I can relate on so many levels, and really as parents, at the end of the day, we want to equip our children to take on what happens in the world. We know the big bad world is out there, and
Yeah,
things are going to happen, and what we want to be able to do to know is that you equip them to withstand whatever is coming
yeah.
their way and be able to push through. And so, yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. That was, I know it's slightly off the path here, but I think
No, it's
it
fine.
was a very
No.
important conversation to have.
And they talk about neurodiversity. And so you think like, why are my kids different? And then I heard
Sorry,
someone
maybe we
talk.
should explain just for listeners who may not know.
Oh yeah.
Can you kind of define that a bit, what that means when we talk about someone who's neurodivergent?
Yeah, yeah. And so, no, thank you for asking that. So, nerves, neurological system, and I'm not an expert on, probably won't have the best definition, but you have neurotypical, and neurotypical are people who, when it comes to autism, when it comes to neurodiversity, it's really a behavioral thing. It's not necessarily like a mental illness or anything along those lines. It's more behavioral. But there's neurotypical, which is kind of typical people, their behavioral system, kind of their sensitivities are in line in kind of what we expect. They, in normal language, they kind of have a thick skin. They're able to kind of roll with the punches to kind of say like, that's kind of in many ways what you would think of as a neurotypical person. A neurodivergent person is just that. It's more diverse. It's different. And I love saying when it comes that we used to think of neurodivergent as kind of a negative thing. They can't really interact with people, but I heard someone say that just like biodiversity, you need neurodiversity, you need many different types. And that really warmed my heart as I was kind of going through a tough patch. But neurodiversity, you talk about the autism spectrum or Asperger's, that's a bit of an outdated term, but there's this spectrum, as there is with anything, but there's a spectrum of behavioral symptoms or issues that people will have. Some of them are nonverbal and kind of are in their own world, if you will. Then there's others like my children who are more functional and can kind of interact at the same time, don't have necessarily that, don't read the room a lot, don't have a pulse on it and kind of say things, that comes to mind. And so that's kind of my unscientific way or in vernacular to kind of describe the difference. I'm sure there's a better definition, but that's sort of how I've used it and thought about things. So one thing that really came up though, that really warmed my heart was that we need all diverse types. I mean, if we kind of have all neurotypical people,
be a boring place. We'd all be lawyers.
We'd all be lawyers. You just nailed it. We'd all be lawyers.
You probably heard
there are neurodiverse lawyers out there. There are neurodiverse lawyers out there. But you're right. It'd be a neurotypical world. So yeah.
I'm very curious, and Casey, first off, this is great chat. I really enjoyed spending time here with you today. This is wonderful. Knowing what you know now, sitting where you sit now in your life and looking back and you can look back to where you were and where you are now. If you were to define success now, say compared to when you were in the legal world, how would you answer that?
In the previous life, in the legal world, and even after that, when I left the law and some other roles, it was very metric based. So attaining a certain type of goal, money, or attaining clients, or whatever the case may be. It was like sports. It was attaining it, and I love that about sports. It's very cut and dry. You either win or you lose, right? And that's often why we watch it. In life, that doesn't necessarily apply. Life's more multifaceted and has kind of more meaning in the sense than a game. I think so, but it was very metric focused. And so if you don't get X, you're going to come home on that Thursday evening and be pretty bummed out about it. I think now for me, success is a level of peace of mind. And it's where I've shifted, kind of like the confidence, action, confidence dynamic, is I've shifted to this point of I am, like you say, financially independent. You have FU money, I'm financially independent. I've kind of really tricked myself into thinking I am peace of mind independent. I have that peace of mind.
Love that.
I have it. I got a whole bank full of peace of mind. And that whether my team loses or whether my son acts a certain way or my daughter or my wife, like I'm going to get annoyed when my wife does XYZ, but then I'm going to take a step back and say, wait a minute, if I could change my wife, would I then have peace of mind? So now I'm tying my peace of mind to something external from me. So I've tried to flip it. And that's my definition of success, is just even in the weird, rough times that this matrix reality, simulation, real world earth, however you view it, I just say, they can't take my peace of mind from me. And that's really what we're after, is peace of mind. I know that sounds kind of boring, but
no, it's not. There's so much to that. Because the peace of mind it makes way for so much other great stuff in your life, right? You're able to do more. You can be more creative. You're not inhibited in your thinking. Peace of mind. That's not, if you like that, to me at least, and again, that's my goal. Like peace of mind, happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction. Those are all in the same family as far as I'm concerned. And so
it's all there. And I've talked to people who said peace, like, oh, I think of it as like, a meadow and a little creek going by, and I'm sitting on a, that's nice, but it's a little boring. I want the hustle bustle. Okay.
Yeah, that's your peace. Yeah.
That's your piece. Maybe that's your piece. Or maybe that's not your piece, and you're kind of falling into, it could be your piece. It could also be this belief system we have of productivity and do. And I would just encourage everyone, I guess, to find your piece, to really go in there and say, like, what is it that brings you that peace? So that's kind of how I look at success.
Very cool. Very cool. Casey, if I were to define success today, it was have a wonderful chat with you. This has been fabulous for listeners, prospective clients, former lawyers that want to connect with you directly or learn more about your work. Where can we send them?
Yeah. So leavelawbehind.com. Check us out there. You can email me, Casey, CASEY at leavelawbehind.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, Casey Berman, SF for San Francisco. Find me there. Happy to talk to anyone.
We will make sure that the contact details are in the show notes below. Casey, again, this has been awesome. I really appreciate the insights, perspective. Not one that I've ever was familiar with. It's a new one for me. Like, you know, that you know, it's and sorry, going back on this, but really when you think about this, you can leave almost anything behind. Like, yes. like if you think about at the core, take law out of the equation for a moment, right? So leave blank behind, right? You can fill the gap with virtually anything. And I'm almost confident and nearly positive that the process that you're using to help people leave blank behind will be the exact same.
Agreed.
Leave
totally
baking, leave firefighting, leave being an airline pilot, leave being a podcaster, like whatever it is, right? If it's not give you that fulfillment, the process is the same.
It's the same process. So great.
Cool. Thank you for this, my friend. All the best. And I appreciate you for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Welcome back. All right. I'm still laughing at that, moment near the end of the chat where Casey joked that, if everyone was neurotypical, then we'd all become lawyers. Quite funny, but I can see the truth of that. And, the human side of that conversation mattered because underneath all of that career talk was really a bigger conversation about identity, fulfillment, and learning to trust yourself. One of the things that stayed with me after this conversation is how often people wait for certainty before they even start to take action, move forward. Casey kept reminding us that confidence usually doesn't come first. It's action does. And sometimes the smallest decision, the quietest step becomes a moment that changes the entire direction of your life. I also appreciated, how honest he was about redefining success, and not through titles or metrics, but through the peace of mind. That's how he measures it. That's a powerful shift, especially in a world that constantly tells us to keep proving ourselves. And that actually leads perfectly into today's audacious insight, because sometimes the people who make the biggest impact are the ones willing to trust a small beginning before anyone else understands where it's going. The future often changes the moment someone questions the normal path. It's time for an audacious insight where we take a quick look at something happening in the real world that reflects the power of bold thinking and intentional action. When Reed Hastings co-founded Netflix, the idea originally started as a DVD by mail service competing against giant video rental chains like Blockbuster. But instead of getting comfortable once business succeeded, Hastings kept questioning what the future could become. Long before streaming became mainstream, Netflix began slowly investing in digital delivery, even when many people thought it was unrealistic or unnecessary. That willingness to evolve step by step eventually transformed an entire industry because someone was willing to challenge what everyone else accepted as permanent. And if today's conversation connected with you, share this episode with someone who may be standing at the edge of their next step right now. Make sure you're following the podcast. If you haven't already, leave a review because it does really help more people discover these conversations. Sometimes growth doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it shows up quietly through one honest decision you finally choose not to ignore. You might be closer than you actually think. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, keep living life audaciously.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion. My words got power, my thoughts have action. Motivation, stay gracious. That's greatness. Be